Good morning again from Cadiz Drydock, and today I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about the paint and how we paint a ship of this size. Now, on your canal boats you'll call it blacking, sometimes you use 2-pack epoxy. On a ship like this the paint can vary depending on where it is. So initially there will be a number of primer coats that will be put on the hull. That will be followed by undercoats, and then there will be a number of top coats, which are the anti-fouling coats, and they're applied in various layers and thickness of layers that we measure by calling what we know them as wet film thickness. And we use gauges to make sure that the paint is being put on in the correct fashion and at the correct thickness. Too thin and you don't get the protection on the hull. Too much and you get runs, just like you would if you were painting gloss in your house, and that looks terrible, and it's a disaster for underwater because those runs make roughness to the hull, which creates drag, and therefore we burn more fuel to get the ship through the water. So it's important that the paint is applied correctly, ideal conditions, which it is today, beautiful and warm here and no wind in Cadiz, but also that it's mixed properly with thinners, because sometimes if it's mixed too thin then we don't get the paint covering that we need and it blooms. You can see the paint takes on a bloom. It almost looks like frost on the top of the paint, and that's a disaster. We don't want that at all. So there's a lot to do with paint, and normally the paint manufacturer will have their own technical representative in the shipyard to oversee the painting of the ship. He's called Ignacio, and we use a company called Jotun to do our paint. And as we walk around, I'll try and see if we can find him. We may be able to get an interview, we shall see, and I'll talk about the preparation of the hull ready for painting. So let's go and have a look. We can see up here there are what looks like plastic drain pipes protruding from the hull. Now these are there for a good reason, because these are the overboard scupper pipes from the top decks. So rainwater drains down through the ship and out these pipes and underwater. But what are these pipes of course have been put into the holes in the hull, and the reason for that is we don't want water coming out of the holes and dribbling down like you can see here over the new paintwork. If we spray paint it over the water, of course the paint won't stick, and it will immediately lift as soon as we put the ship back in the water. So these will be checked for water tightness before we start with the paint. And you can see here that they've got the tube in surrounded by some silicone, but you can see it's been running previously. So they will all be double checked before we start painting. Over here are some old paint tins, and these are from the paint that has been used inside the ship in the tanks. And you'll see that the company we use is called Jotun. It's a very well-known manufacturer of paints, not only for ships but small boats as well. Lots of banging going on inside the hull. Also over here we can see paint spraying machines and the long hoses onto which the spraying guns are attached. And we may see those in action a bit later on. These ones here have been used for painting inside the tanks, but it's exactly the same machines that we use for painting the hull all the way from the bottom here, including the white sides. And we are painting all the way up to the top of 5 deck, the bottom of 6 deck. And we'll go and have a look at that from the dock bottom now. Here you can see the windows have been coated in white wax prior to painting, because when they start spraying, we don't want to get paint on the glass. So that wax will protect the glass, and we just wash it off once the painting has been finished. The painting has come on well, and in the last episode I mentioned about how we measure whether the paint has been put on to the correct thickness, and I've brought with me today what we use, and it's so simple you won't believe it. But anyway, let's take a look at it. And here it is. It's a very, very simple device for measuring the thickness of paint. On this side you can see the words wet film thickness. I don't know if that's in focus there for you. And this is in millimeters. On the other side it's in microns. And you simply hold the gauge against the hull in the paint, and you take it off and you look at the teeth on the end, and you see which ones are coated in paint, and that will measure the thickness of the paint for you. It is as simple as that. A very simple device. What is also clear to me now is that the international language of men working in a dry dock goes something like, "Oh, hey, whoa, hey." I've heard it in every single dry dock I've been in. It works.